Hi, it's Dave, allegedly Dave. I've had a great time speaking to Noble. I hope it's good fun for you too.
CFR Network, CFR News, Shalom, Balance, Paradise, good day, good night, all. Welcome back. Thank yourself for surviving another year. We made it. Congratulate yourself, pat yourselves on the back. We're here in the physical form. Rising paradise to all who didn't, unfortunately, make it on this plane of existence. Returning guests. In a very sunny climate right now, I have the one and only Dave Murphy, aka Allegedly Dave, aka the man with his fingers in many pies, knowledge-wise. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you for having me back again. I'm pleased to be here, and fingers in many pies. Yeah, that's an understatement.
It's so true. I mean, in all the pies, and should we say then, Dave, all of the pies.
Yeah, all my toes are occupied as well, and got a couple balancing on my head.
This is it. It's a wonderful sight to see, and thank you for continuously bringing out the knowledge. It's refreshing to have those videos occasionally pop up, and it's not FE related. It's knowing your
Yeah.
rights. It's dealing with, all kinds of different bits and pieces. So I'm glad we've got someone like yourself who is bringing forth lots of different types of information, which information is good to have, but it's about how can we manifest this information and this knowledge into the physical realm? Can we utilize this for our betterment?
Well, you know what, I just did a video a little while back called "Return of the Nephilim." I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, of course.
Is it? Yeah.
Hmm.
So I've just got some extra information, which I'm going to be researching a bit more. But I don't know. Maybe should I tell you, give you the idea?
Drop a few
Just
jewels, sir, indeed.
Yeah. Well, so just to précis what's gone on so far. The story so far is this idea that back in the 1800s. Um, these cities emerged and were, excavated, and there was all these there was technology in these cities that the system basically called world fairs, and they supposedly built these places, these massive cities with all this amazing architecture for a world fair, and then destroyed it after 6 months. But I don't think that's true. I think these cities were excavated, and they found all this technology, including, I believe, cloning. Um, because apparently, when you look into it, cloning arrived or was invented around the same time. So in these world fairs, you got this idea of babies in incubators. So there's a whole
Incubators.
building.
Mm.
Yes, there's a whole building called the baby incubator, baby incubator building, and literally all thousands of babies lined up, and people would go in and look at these babies. Um, and about the same time, or just a bit later than that, you got this idea of orphan trains. So thousands and some hundreds of thousands of orphans appeared apparently out of nowhere, and in America they were shipped from New York, something like 300,000 of them
Hmm.
across America to populate the cities.
And we're talking turn of the century, this that sort of period.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 1800s, late 1800s. And But the other thing is that in England, same thing happened. You got all of a sudden all these orphans, and these orphans were doing adult jobs, working
Laboring.
in factories.
Yes.
Yeah, all working in factories. I just found out about something called the Newsy strike. Um, so there were all these orphan children on the streets of New York, and they were working. A lot of them were working as newsboys. and they were selling newspapers. And one thing led to another, and they ended up going on strike. And that led to, and I can't remember the date, it's 18 something, but it led to a child labor strike. And the children were doing so much labor, so much of the work, that it brought New York to a standstill when the children decided they weren't going to work anymore.
It started,
So,
Dave, it started in July the 18th, or the 18th of July, as we would say, 1899, and ended on the
that's it.
2nd of August, 1899.
Right. I'd never heard of it.
No, have
But
I?
the Newsy strike, so these paper boys, right, that led to the child labor strike. And it, it brought New York to an utter standstill. But
So,
the
Dave,
point is that
let's question before you move on to that with that point. Let's question why have we got an influx of all of these children to work? Where are the adults? Where are the adults that would have been doing these jobs?
Exactly. It seems like these children were not treated as we would treat children today. They were treated like slave labor. And that would make sense if people knew that they were clones, they were created children. Yeah. So you can actually see it in the attitude these people had to these incubator babies. They were like, lifting them up, and they weren't treating with that same sort of reverence and care that we would treat a baby. They were just there's pictures of people holding these babies up like they were sacks of potatoes.
Toys, in essence.
Yeah. So the point is, it wasn't just in America; it was in England, where all these orphans have been transported across, to Canada and Australia and South Africa and places. But it was also across Europe. There was loads of these orphans in Russia being transported. Anyway, that was in this video that I did. So one of the things somebody told me was that there are people out there who don't have an inner monologue. So that voice in your head that you can hear chattering. So when you're listening to something, it's going, "Is that right? I'm sure I saw something." And you're having a conversation with this voice in your head while you're listening to information. There are people who don't have that voice. So I started to wonder, what if, because if people are creating people, maybe they're not creating everything. They're creating the physical bodies, but are they creating with it the soul or the spirit that's that's inhabiting them or should inhabit them? Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And that brings a question to, what is the difference between the spirit and the soul?
Well, I don't know. They're just two words I used to try and illustrate it. But the point I'm trying to make is that is maybe when they create these clones, there isn't that that particular thing that we call us. We call ourselves, and there's no inner voice to have a conversation with. And when I look around the world and look at people I interact with, and try and talk to them about stuff that I know about, I get that the blank muggle stare, as if I'm telling him stuff, but it's not going in. It's not getting past a barrier.
Yeah.
What if? And I've got to step back here. Another piece of information is, before the age of 7, anything that somebody learns becomes their reality. right? So up to the age of 7, everything you take in is now reality because you can't analyze it.
No.
Okay. Um, so it's just strange that, you know, we see these incubator babies, and then we see these orphans who are all about, you know, around about, you know, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. What if these incubator babies, right, are programmed, because you get all these you had all these orphanages, right, which were controlled by the church, so
Yes.
providing all this education. So now their realities are set, and they can't process new information. They haven't got that inner monologue to
Mm.
go to question as you're listening. So what if we're surrounded by people who literally don't have the capacity to
Mm.
analyze this information, because, you know, they are clones or descended from clones. I know it's a way out theory, but, you know, and I'm not sort of, I haven't got it polished yet, because you know, this is just a
No,
new idea that I'm throwing
that
around.
well, no, if you look at it, that does make sense. But then if we look at another element of it, which would be the fallen, um, that seed, which was supposed to have been wiped out post Noah, we know that seed continued. So and that seed has diverted in through many different bloodlines and displays itself in many different ways. And now with the advent of cloning, we could have a even further admixture.
Indeed. And, you know, again, I don't want to make this isn't about race, you know. It just so happens that this this bloodline is, you know, white skinned, blonde haired, blue eyed, you know, when they're in its purity. Um, but, you know, it had to be noted that amongst all these orphans that got transported around, there were no black orphans. Um, and I go back to the video I mentioned. In 1755, Benjamin Franklin described the world, as far as populations were concerned, and he said that all of Europe and Asia and Africa was black, and there was only a very few of this white bloodline. And when I say white bloodline, I mean this bloodline, this particular bloodline. Um, yes, it mixes with others, but it has no regard for those people, because they're dirty blood. They're not of a pure bloodline. So Benjamin Franklin was saying that this particular bloodline, this real white bloodline, there was only a group of them in Saxony in Germany. There was some in England, and then there was a few newcomers in America. And he said that was the entire population of white people in the entire world. But then less than 100 years later, right, after all these orphans were transported, now there's millions of white people around the world. And so I think that was a population event, a population creation event, and it's happening again today, under the cover of the Ukraine war. But yes, I'm just linking this idea
Yes.
that there is a deficiency that I can't even imagine, you know, and that's the not having an inner monologue.
Mm.
Um, I can't imagine how I would process information if I can't kind of discuss it in my head.
Yes. Bounce
I
it
mean,
back.
yeah, how do I analyze information? Somebody's telling me something. How do I analyze that information if I can't discuss it inside my head?
Internally. You'd have to have a
Yeah.
a third body to kind of like, did you hear that? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think the only way you can do that is externally, is note down the information on a piece of paper, and then, you know, visually work it out. You
As you
know,
go.
but yeah, but without that inner monologue, I can't see a way of analyzing information, you know, on the fly, as it were.
Mm.
So So it leads me to believe that there are people who are, say, deficient. I don't like saying that, but deficient in that way, so that when you try and talk to them and try and convince them of something, all you do get is the muggle stare, because it
Mhm.
conflicts with the information that they've been programmed with, and that set their reality.
Yeah. The parameters of the program is set, and it's does not compute, does not compute.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that there was a video that went round just recently of this high tech these high tech birthing pods, thousands of them, saying, oh, we can produce babies without illness and stuff and all that. But that's old technology. It's over
Mhm.
100 years old.
Mm.
They've been doing that. And also, I also found out that there was a doctor who supposedly created these incubators, and he said in a paper that he wrote that if he put these babies in these incubators and kept them in the dark, right, and kept them warmer or hotter than normal, sort of a normal ambient temperature, they keep the temperature high, right? These babies would grow something like a year and a day or something. You know,
What?
they could, yes, they could accelerate the growth of these babies by keeping the babies in these conditions, in certain conditions. So
Do you
yeah.
think do you do you think that the people who have access to this technology, do you think that they've got some kind of link with Azazil's descendants or something? Because this is, there's nothing new under the sun, and we know what they were doing.
Right. Well, yeah, the Nephilim, yes, the fallen angels and Nephilim. Well, another some more information that I'm linking to this idea is that there was another reason for the Gulf War. So
Oh, go on, elaborate. I think I know where you're going, but please do, sir.
right, yeah. So we're thinking, well, why did Americans go into Iraq? When there were no Iraqis in 9/11. I think they used that as an excuse, but what was going on under the narrative of the war was that they were looting all the museums and looking for essentially biblical artifacts. And
Gilgamesh.
exactly.
Gilgamesh.
Well, you know who Gilgamesh actually is in the Old Testament? Yeah.
Goliath.
No, Nimrod.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Yes, 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 yes.
Right. So they met him like straight after the war. You got a news story. Sorry, the solar. Yeah. So yeah, Nimrod in the Old Testament. Now I've kept away from the Septuagint because I thought it was Greek, and I didn't want to deal with their books. But
It's got some
I
stuff
started
in there.
looking. It does. It does. Now, when the King James talks about Nimrod, it said that he became a mighty man. So Nimrod was an ordinary guy, and then he became a mighty man. Right. When you look in the Septuagint, it translates it a slightly different way. It says he became a giant. Interestingly enough.
Mm.
So I think, oh, yeah, sorry, I was going to say that, yeah, just after the Americans went into Iraq, there was a news story saying that they found Gilgamesh's or Nimrod's tomb.
Boom. Yes.
Um,
And
and
there's a
they
alleged
recovered.
video. There's a alleged video. We can't confirm if it's real or not, but
Mhm. But there was also a news story that said that they had Nimrod's DNA.
mhm.
So um, I'm kind of linking two things together. That Nimrod had a certain ability or a trait about him that made him able to change from a normal human into a Nephilim. So he had the Nephilim DNA, but somehow it was suppressed until something triggered him to become a giant. And when you see the pictures of Nimrod / Gilgamesh, I think it's on the walls of, is it Nineveh? There's a picture of Nimrod / Gilgamesh holding a lion as one
Exactly.
would hold a cat.
Yes. And
Um,
there's one by his feet
the,
as well, right?
yes,
Hmm.
but the book says he became a giant. So I think they went out their way to find Nimrod's DNA. I think to incorporate it in these created bodies that are being were. I think you're gonna have to watch the video to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
follow
of
this.
course. No, but it makes perfect sense because we have multiple companies who have got millions, possibly even billions backing them. And one of the main ones is slipping my name at the moment, but they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth.
Yeah,
And they have the
yeah.
DNA and they're trying to do all kind of bits and pieces. So this is this is for the public, for the muggles, as you say, the sheeple, the NPCs. Oh my God, look, that's wow. We've got a woolly mammoth now. Look at the
Mhm.
technology. I mean, we can do the designer babies. I want a ginger haired little baby now with a slight tint, hue wise, with green eyes, maybe. Oh no, we can go past
Mhm.
that. We can have Tyrannosaurus Rex, the lizards. We can have those roaming around, not thinking of what they're actually doing, DARPA.
Yeah, well, again, this is disclosure. They have to tell us what they're doing. They have to get our agreement to it. So, one could say that Jurassic Park was their invitation for us to agree
Mm.
for them to do something like bring Nimrod back. Because if we agree that it's a good idea to bring Tyrannosaurus Rexes back,
Yeah,
then that automatically says, oh, it's okay to do humans as well.
of
You know,
course. Of course. Remember Dolly
so
the sheep in the 90s?
indeed, but we all know that they'll only show us
Yeah,
things when they're way, way, way ahead of those.
of
So
course.
them showing us Dolly the sheep means that they've been doing it for a long, long time, and
Well,
they've, yeah.
yeah, if we look at it, I don't know how much it could be 100% confirmed, but Stalin was supposed to be experimenting with apes, impregnating women with apes, you know, and see if he can create super soldiers, and that's it's going back a little bit of time.
Well, I believe that the effort to create, hybrid bodies goes back to, Noah's time,
Hmm.
even probably before Noah's time, because Book of Enoch talks about when a Nephilim dies, their spirit can't go anywhere. So
Yes,
they're
it's trapped.
disembodied spirits roaming
Hmm.
the earth. So
Mm.
I think the effort that's been going on and still ongoing to this day was about creating the perfect host bodies for these Nephilim. So back in Noah's day or before the flood, they were creating sort of human animal chimeras in
Yes.
hopes that they would be the perfect body. And, those became the myths of minotaurs and centaurs and
Hmm.
what have you. Um, and in the modern era they had this idea of alien abduction,
Hmm.
and when you look into all these alien abductions, the focus of these abductions has always been about reproduction. you know
Yes.
women sort of being abducted and then waking up and finding they're pregnant and then getting abducted again and the baby's gone, things like that. So one of the conclusions of the video I did earlier, the Return of the Nephilim, is that the research that was going on in Nazi Germany under the Lebensborn program, which again was an effort to breed back in the perfect Nephilim, Superman, Ubermensch, by
Yes.
by getting the blondest, blue-eyed, women and sort of breeding them with the blondest, blue-eyed men. Again, that's the phenotype of the Nephilim, the blonde hair, blue eyes. So that research, which we all assumed ended when the war ended,
Of
well, I
course.
believe it carried on.
Operation Paperclip, come on, America, Germany, the UK.
Well, I think, but everyone knows about paperclip, but there was another one. It was I can't pronounce it, Osoviakim or something like that. But it was the operation that the parallel operation that was happening in Russia. So the Russians took something like 7 or 8 thousand Nazi scientists into Russia. Right. Now, have a guess where those Nazi scientists ended up.
Could it be
Eh,
possibly the Ukraine?
Absolutely. So,
We're all the military. We've got like 5 or 6 military, not military, nuclear sites around there as well.
well, we keep hearing from Ukraine that there are all these neo Nazis there.
Yes.
Well, no, then they're not neo Nazis. They're the Nazis because that's where they went. You know, but I think
Would you
when sorry.
would you say that the Argentina South America thing is a total kind of move away? Let me show you my hands waving here so we can, have them in the Ukraine, just slowly working and doing their thing? Or do you think there was a branch split where some was in the Ukraine and obviously some were down in Argentina?
Well, I think I think that's pretty much it. That the bosses, the chiefs, including Hitler himself, ended up in South America. I think the rocketry and military intelligence and the mind control aspect went to America,
Mm,
and I think the eugenicist part of it went to Ukraine, because uh, as I said, in the end of the 1800s, there were loads and loads of orphanages in England, in America, in Canada, in Australia, and right now there are none in
none.
any of these
Yeah.
countries.
Mm.
But in Ukraine right now, I found 750, and there were more than that, but I just found one list of 750.
Working
Okay,
orphanages.
yes, 750 in that one country. Um, Ukraine is also the center of surrogate motherhood, so people can, send their send their sperm over to there or whatever, and some woman who will supposedly carry a baby for you. I don't think that's
Interesting.
exactly what happens, but anyway,
So
it's the center.
as well as being the breadbasket of wheat and all of that and agricultural, it's the breadbasket of cloning in essence.
I believe so. I believe that the research that was going on in Nazi Germany to create the perfect Nephilim host bodies
Mhm.
has continued in Ukraine, to the point now where they're now deploying these bodies, these I don't know, these host bodies
Mhm.
around the world, because underneath the Ukraine war narrative is a different narrative,
Of
um,
course.
and that narrative is Ukraine orphans needing homes in the West. Now, if you've been following the news, you'll find that Ireland, for instance,
I've
was
been
set to
over.
take. Oh yeah,
Yes.
they were set to take 300,000 of them,
Yeah.
but then they said, no, we're going to take unlimited numbers.
Yeah.
right? Um, Canada is saying the same thing. America is saying the same thing.
And let's not
UK
forget,
is
Dave,
saying the same thing.
Dave,
Mhm.
Ireland has a huge housing crisis.
Yep, yep. And they're bending over backwards to find places
Yeah.
for these Ukrainians when the Irish are, are sleeping on the streets.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
something's going on, Um, but I'm saying it's happening all over the world.
Yeah.
It's like the whole world are accepting unlimited numbers of these Ukrainians, right? I think Hungary, when I last checked, took something like 1.2 million. And the other question is, where are all these Ukrainian orphans coming from?
I was just
Um,
about to ask, what is the population of Ukraine for all of the this mass exodus, but yet we've still got a military force battling the evil Putin?
but here's the thing, this is how powerful the media are. Yeah, if you for the most part, if people don't hear anything on the media, it's not happening.
Hmm.
So, we're catching these little stories about, say, Ireland taking 300,000 and then saying they'll take unlimited, but you're not seeing the bigger picture with
No.
lots and lots of countries following suit. And then, unless you get that information, you're not going to ask the question, where are all these children coming from? You know, um,
Piecing the jigsaw puzzles together to create the bigger picture, which again is, as you alluded to, the Iraq War. We saw, was it the shock and awe? Yeah,
mhm. But
propaganda that was all over the television day. That was everywhere. Everywhere you went, you were seeing
mhm.
military, you were seeing dead bodies, you were seeing everything. Nowadays, we're just seeing, oh, a missile went over and we can see the explosion. Look, that's war.
But it's like what you were saying, though. It's like, the left hand going, look over here, look over here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
While other things are going on with the right hand. Yeah. Um, yeah. So there was something I was going to say. Oh, that's gone out of my head now. Oh, man. I
Apologies,
hate when that happens.
apologies. But you said there's so much.
Oh,
Go on.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going back to the Nimrod thing where it says that Nimrod became a giant. Now, if you add in this idea that they've got Nimrod's DNA, right, and they've had it since, was it 2003? So they've had plenty of time to integrate it into these host bodies, into these orphans that are being spread around the world. And what if there's going to be some kind of trigger that will create these Nephilim giants to return?
Ah,
Um,
so like a dormant gene of sorts where you can just literally turn it on and then here we go. We've got a 12 foot, a 15 foot.
as I said, Nimrod became a giant.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, again, when I'm looking at the uh, the Septuagint, I was actually looking at what's going to happen in the end days, and one of the things it says that the Most High will send His mighty men to actually scour the earth, to ravage the earth, right? To purge the evildoers, purge the wicked. Okay.
The mighty men,
Um,
sir. So who
it,
does that relate to?
well, again, that was in Isaiah. I think it was in the book of Isaiah and in the KGV. But when you look at the same passage in the Septuagint, it says the Most High is going to send His giants in the last days. So, what if, what if, um, they trigger these Nephilim giants to appear, and what they expect to happen doesn't go to plan, and it goes the way the Most High says it's going to go. That instead of the giants taking over the earth for this bloodline, these giants start to turn on that bloodline. Um, Again, I'm still in the process of putting all this together and finding the
Hmm.
proof and stuff. But it's an intriguing story.
It
Um,
definitely is. What's your thoughts on the children of Anak and who was the other one, the Raphaim? Are these all still part of that same bloodline, or are we talking about Serpent Seed?
that is a mystery because it kind of suggests that some of the pre-flood giants made it over. Um,
Exactly.
but I actually suspect that it's really talking about some post-flood Canaanites who who split from the rest of the group, and um, because it's just odd that post-flood, in the days of the children of Israel, they would when they would attack a city, and you find this in the book of Jasher, when they would attack a
And
city,
yeah.
in that city there'll be a few mighty men,
Hmm.
which would be giants.
Yes.
Um, so I'm just thinking maybe a group of these giants, split off, and they went to live in a particular valley, the Valley of the Rephaim, as it's called, and
Hmm.
it's just the land of the giants.
Now, what I don't not think we've had excuse me, I don't think we've had this conversation reference the land of Nod and where Noah got his wife from. And your
Um,
well, what is your idea
yeah,
in regards to that? Because I've got one from my understanding and overstanding. I do hear some other variations to it.
okay. I don't know very much about the land of Nod,
So let me
but
encapsulate.
where?
Shall I encapsulate
Okay,
my theory so you can respond?
sure,
Okay.
yeah.
So Genesis 1 creation, I think that was let us make men in our own image after our own likeness. And then we go to the
Hmm.
6 day creation, the most high, in my opinion, not the angels. He created man from the dirt of the ground and blew the ruach into the right nostril. That is Adam and Eve. So every year is like 1,000 years to the most high.
Hmm.
Couple days prior to that, let us make man, which was the angels, which was there on the realm, on the plane outside of the Garden of Eden. Fast
Hmm.
forward, Cain and Abel, Cain slew Abel. He was then banished from the Garden of Eden, had to go east, I think it is, east of Garden of Eden,
Hmm.
and then went to the land of Nod where he found himself a wife.
Right. Yep. Okay, I'll go along with that. But yeah, the I'd call them Neanderthals. I think Neanderthals,
Mm.
they were created first in Genesis 1:27 on the sixth day, and after the seventh day, and it doesn't say how long after the seventh day. Um, so after the seventh day, some undetermined amount of time, could have been 10 years, could have been 1,000 years for all we know. But
Would you
after
not
the
assume
seventh
that,
day,
wouldn't you assume, sorry, Dave, wouldn't you assume that that would be the seventh? I know what you mean, because it's vague, but wouldn't you assume it's the seventh day, the day of the seventh number of perfection, the Shabbats? Let's make man. He
no, but
rested. Remember?
it was after the seventh day. So the Most Highest rested on the seventh day, right?
Yes.
It doesn't tell you
Yeah.
that Adam was created on the eighth day.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
It just says that the next thing that happens is the Most High created, formed Adam. Now, I'm saying there's an indeterminate amount of time between the seventh day and when Adam was created,
Yes.
right? And Adam, his first job was to name all the animals, and
Hmm.
it said that a helper wasn't found amongst the animals. So that's when Eve was created. So Eve wasn't created as a mate, right? She was created as a helper, right? And so there's an indeterminate amount of time from when Adam was created to when Eve was created, because we don't know how long it took for Adam to name all the animals. It
Hmm.
it doesn't say how long it took for him to decide. Well, no, Adam needs a helper, and we couldn't find one. We don't know. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the next day it all happened.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be
so yes, there were.
speculation. Yeah.
Sure. And so when I'm gonna call them Neanderthals. When the Neanderthals were created, they were instructed to spread over the entire Earth and populate it.
Hmm.
But when Adam was created and then Eve was created, they were told to stay in a garden. So
Yes.
it was definitely two different creations there.
Mm.
And yes, when Cain was banished, he said, if somebody finds me, they're going to kill me.
Indeed.
Well, my contention is that Adam and Eve and Noah, Cain looked like me. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the Neanderthals looked like the children of the fallen angels,
Hmm.
right? Because that was in their likeness. Um,
Exactly.
so, and we know from their DNA that they had, white skin and was it red or blonde hair, green or blue eyes.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, if the Cain looked like me and it came across some Neanderthals, yes, they'd kill him because he looked so different.
He's an outsider.
So an outsider. So the mark of Cain was
Hmm.
skin turning white, and that became the default punishment for wickedness, leprosy.
Leprosy. Yes,
Yeah.
and in
So
Leviticus there is a ways of how to identify it, how to then
yeah.
potentially treat it, to separate them from. Yes, indeed.
Right. Now, there's a book that came out in 2019, released from the Vatican. Um, it's when they actually admitted to their 51 miles of archives underneath the Vatican.
Hmm.
Yeah. Two books were released. One of them was called The Lost Book of King Og. And then the other one, the more interesting one for me, was the Book of Lamech of Cain. So there was
Wow.
a Lamech, yeah, there was a Lamech who was in the line of Cain, even though
Yep,
there was also one in the line of Adam. But
exactly.
but Lamech of Cain, he was the first one who had more than one wife, incidentally. Um, and he married two women from the line of Adam. So the daughters of somebody called Kenan in the line of Adam, Zillah and Adar, I think it
Hmm.
is. They married Lamech, and one of them had a daughter, Naama, and it
Ooh.
was it was this Naama that married Noah, and it's written in this book of Lamech of Cain. And interestingly, one of the first lines of that book, it talks about Cain, and it said, "Our forefather Cain, who was marked with leprous whiteness."
Yes. Yes.
Right. There's also a whole chapter about Nama, and it says that she wasn't completely white, so it looks like she looked like she was mixed race
Mixed, yeah.
because she was not into. It says something like she was not entirely wicked,
Mm.
and so she ended up marrying Noah, and that's how Cain's bloodline got the other side of the flood as well.
But also, didn't the three brothers, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, they brought wives onto the ship as well, right? Which had seed in
Yes,
them.
yeah. Noah had to find them wives a week before the flood,
Yeah.
so yeah, they were all corrupted as well. Um, so yes, it's the thing is that the flood had to happen because the fallen angels had corrupted mankind
Hmm.
so much that virtually, well, not virtually, everyone, apart from Noah and Methuselah at this
Methuselah.
time, right,
Yes.
were the last ones who were with pure blood.
Hmm.
and literally the Most High waited until the very last minute